there's the link. As I created this course, it's intended for congregations or individuals or young people who would like to learn how to build websites for churches. This is not a course about how to build a website for your local business. It's not a course about how to build your website for a bookstore or anything else. It's about church websites, and it's for the church. So this course is not available for the local Baptist down the street who runs in the course and wants to learn how to build a Baptist website. It's not gonna work that way. To that end, though, I wanted it to be scalable. I wanted it to be maintainable. So the courses.cozort.net is something that contains all of the things I'm going to teach you in today and tomorrow and more as far as how to build a church website. I am going to cut a few corners for this seminar simply because we have to for the sake of time. But the course has the entirety of the material. If a congregation cannot afford the course, there's a price attached to the course. If the congregation cannot afford the course, they should get with me. That price is to make the system maintainable. There's literally hundreds of hours worth of time in that course and an ongoing monthly expense to keep it online. So that's part of the reason for the cost. But that being said, there's never a reason in the church why money should stand in the way of a Christian helping a church reach the lost. So money never will stop me from doing that. To all of you who are students and to those who are watching, we're going to do our best to implement the course at a complete level with the expectation that you will build on what's here. Working with the staff and the faculty, I'm not going to say too much about what we've discussed. If anything does want to be said or does need to be said, I'll let Dan handle that. But I hope that you will not just go through this seminar and learn these things. I hope we will build on this and continue to build on this, and you will walk out of school being able to function in, as I mentioned in the previous hour, in a digital world and a physical one. Now, the courses.cozort.net is there for your reference. There is more explanation. There's more details there, and there's more to do with that I'm not going to go into in the midst of this. But the bit.ly link, the one that you've opened up, is a folder. As we go through different pieces of this, I will drop files in there and you'll be able to download them. That is so you can complete the steps that we're going to go through. The next few sections of this are going to be hands-on. That's why it's called a hands-on lab. For those who don't have computers here, I wish I could have brought enough computers to where everybody could have borrowed one of mine, but that just wasn't viable and I didn't have any idea how many people there would be. But get with me afterwards, and I'll get you a copy of the recording. And like I said, the recording will be on the website as well, so you can go through what we go through there. Let's begin with the fundamental pieces of a website. In that bit.ly link, if I open it here, there should have been a PDF. That was not the right link, but it will get you there. The one you need is this one, that folder right there. You can go peruse through all the rest of it at your own leisure, but it'll probably disappear at some point. So here's what we need to get started. You need to open a web browser and you need to go to cozort.net/webcourse-links. So if you're a student and you've got a computer in front of you, type away. Head to that link, click the link in the PDF, what have you, or the Word document, and open that up. What are the basic tools of a website? There's about 6 of them, and they are here on the screen. In order to have a website, you need, first and foremost, a server. Server is made up of a lot of different concepts in the computer world. Sometimes, yes?
Do you mind repeating that? I know some are still trying to get to it.
Yes. Cozort web.net. It's the top link right up there. Let me see if I can get this bigger. Open with Word. That'll make it bigger. Kozor.net/web course links. There you go. Thank you. On that page, you will find all of the links that you see just beneath it here on this page. So it's there, but it'll give you some visual reference for what I'm about to say. The things that make up a website, begins with a server. There has to be a computer or series of computers out on the internet that host the material that people are coming to. Back in the days of the internet when it began, that's what the network was. Back before the World Wide Web, there was a series of computers that were all networked to each other across the United States and across the world talking to each other. We've moved on from that point. You now don't buy a computer, connect it to the internet, and generally speaking, serve files directly from your house to people all over the world. Generally speaking. We'll just leave it at that. You don't want to have a server running in your house. You don't want to have a server running in your church building. You don't want to do that because it's not cost efficient and it's not the most effective way to do it. This process for building websites has become a science. It's very efficient now, and it's very cost effective. So I'm going to tell you the services I use. If a congregation comes to me and says, Aaron, please build us a church website, I'm going to show you what I use. I'm going to show you every step that I take. There are going to be more complicated steps we can't get into, but we'll discuss some of those in preview at the 11 o'clock hour tomorrow. But the basics of a church website, you're going to get every single one of them in the course of this hour and next hour, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow. DigitalOcean is who I use to run my servers. They have a system they call droplets. It's a play on the words ocean, droplets of water. So they've got a data center. They've got a few of them all over the world. And I pay for a $5 a month server called a droplet. So if we go to this link, I'll actually step you through this. Anybody who uses this link that I have through them, you can get, I believe it's 30 days, $50 credit to use. So you can run something for 30 days, never cost you a dime. But sign up through the login process for the students. I'm going to show you this so where you understand the concept. You don't have to do this part. We actually have a server waiting on you with the ability for you to log in already. That's what the paper was that handed to you. But if you came to this, you would just put in your name, your information, and I don't really care that my email address gets out there because it's posted on the front of the church bulletin, so everyone has it anyway. A little secret, this is totally just a random thing you might want to know. If you use Google for your email hosting, and your email address is something like this, your name and then the ending, you can put a plus sign after your actual email address and before the @ sign, you can type anything you want after that. So if you want an account with a company, you already have an account, but you want a second one, you can put a plus sign and another word, and they will treat it as a second account, but Google will treat it as the exact same email address and ignore everything after the plus and before the @. So if I put in MSOP, it will not think that this is an account that I already have. Wow, I don't know what happened there. Hold on. Has anyone ever been experienced with live demos? What happens in a live demo? Somebody tell me. Something always goes wrong. Oh, by the way, there's the invitation. You notice it says you've been invited to join $50, 30 days, not 30 months. So they're going to send an invite, send it to my email, I click a confirm link, and then I can go through and actually create a server. I already have an account through them, so I will just go through this process, sign out and sign back in, show you how to do this. Let me sign in. I love their system here. They actually care about security. I'll say this while I'm doing this. They care about security. They care that your account doesn't get hacked. So if they see an IP address try to come to your account and log in that they don't recognize, or a computer they don't recognize, they will force you to go through a verification process because they don't want your website stolen, and you don't either. So it's a hassle, but it's something you have to learn. So let's say I created an account with DigitalOcean, and now I want to create a server. I click create, I click droplet, and it's going to say, okay, what kind of server do you want? In the website world that we live in, we're going to run Ubuntu, which is a form of Linux. None of this stuff should bother you. Just everything is fine except for the price. You don't want to pay $40 a month. You want to come right down here to that. So if you were stepping through this on your own, if you were building your own church website, the cost initially for the server, that's the first piece, $5 a month, plus this, which is an additional 20% of the droplet price. So another $1. You say, Aaron, why would I want to pay an extra $1 for backups? Because someday you will click the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, or get hacked, and you will go, oh, I wish it was yesterday or last week, and I could just click a button and go back to last week before all of that happened, and I could just go on with my life. Not, hey, I'm going to spend the next 24 hours cleaning up a mess on my church website. You don't want a mess on your church website, so you do want backups. These backups are very different from what you may be thinking of as far as a backup of files. A lot of times we back up files, maybe put them on an external hard drive. That's not what this is. This is what's called a bare metal backup. In other words, if your operating system gets hacked, you can restore this backup and it will take you back as if that never happened. If your website gets hacked, it will take you back to the last backup as if it never happened. And then you can fix whatever caused you to be hacked. The reality is this is the only kind of effective backup. It's a way to take a server literally back in time and just replace anything that's happened. I've had a church website hacked before. I've actually had more than one hacked before. Not out of any fault of my own, just somebody targeted it and went after it. And the reality is you don't have time nor enough money to protect from a targeted hack. You just don't. You can't pay enough money for that. But you can protect yourself from general malicious activity. General malicious activity comes in the form of a couple of things. Weak passwords that get exploited. One of the things that you'll see me use throughout this training is a service called Lastpass. Lastpass is something I've been using since I was working at GBN, and I had to maintain passwords for literally hundreds of accounts. And if you're going to do that, you say, well, that's fine. I use the same password for everything. There's a website out there. If somebody wants to find out more about it, they can, and I'll tell you. But there's a website out there you can go check if an account you've had in the past has already been hacked. Because Target got hacked, and Sony got hacked, and Xbox got hacked, and Sears got hacked, and Circuit City got hacked, and the list just goes on and on and on. And every single, oh, and by the way, that credit company that all of us use, Equifax, that whether we like it or not, who's supposed to protect our credit, they got hacked and let out hundreds of millions of email addresses and logins. So if you used the same password on any of those sites that you also use on your email or your website or whatever, that means that website exists out there. Hackers already have it. It means the email's out there and the password's out there too. You can't afford to use the same password on everything. You just can't. But most of us can't remember every password we ever dreamt up in our life either. What Lastpass does is allows you to remember one password, and that's the password to Lastpass. And then they manage the rest of your passwords, but here's how they do it. They do it the correct way. Everything inside Lastpass is encrypted and what's called hashed and salted. What it means is even Lastpass cannot get to your passwords if you forget your master password. They cannot restore them. They cannot give you your account back. They can't access it. Lastpass has also been hacked, by the way. But do you know what the people got out of it? Nothing. No compromised data whatsoever. All they got was gibberish that would have taken them about 290,000 years at current computing speeds to unencrypt. That's why I use Lastpass. Because I don't care if they get hacked. The most they'll ever get out of it is my email address, which is already out there on the internet, so I don't care. Use a Lastpass manager. One password is one, Lastpass is one, but it allows you to create separate, unique passwords for every account and still be able to log in. I sometimes will demonstrate to people how many accounts I actually have to maintain and keep track of. We'll put it this way. If you were going to use the slider bar would be about that big, and you could just keep scrolling for about 5 minutes. And that's all the accounts that I have in my Lastpass, because that's what I have to deal with. Yes. There is a free tier, and that's all I use. Currently, I paid for it when we were at GBN, and if you're using it for a company, you should pay for it. I use the free service. They have some additional features on the paid services. It costs like $3 a month. And trust me, if your passwords ever get out to anything sensitive like your bank account, $3 a month is nothing compared to what you'll spend getting things back. So, backups are important. Passwords are important. You can only do so much to prevent hacks, but you can plan in advance to make sure your website has backups. That's what you should do. For $1 a month, it's worth it. The next thing you do is leave this exactly the way it is. We just run our servers in New York because we're not on the West Coast and we're not in another country. If you are in another country, you should run them close at the data center closest to you. So if you're in Singapore, if you're in Japan, if you're in London, don't run them in the US, because then all the traffic of all of your website visitors has to cross the ocean to get to your website, to cross back to the ocean, across the ocean to get back to the computer. Run it as close as you can to where your visitors are. In this case, I do use the one-time password. I select this option. Basically what it does is, when the server's created, they email you a password. You will need this later. We'll explain that when we get to it. So you do all of this, you give it a name. And you click create. So it's going to sit there, and in a couple of minutes, it's going to give me a server. The server will not have a website on it, won't have anything on it other than an installation of Linux. I can do with it what I will. But that's the next step. The next step involves you connecting a second service to your server. The things that make up a website: number one, a server. Number two, an address, right? A domain name. Everybody's got to have a domain name, otherwise you can't have a website. Domain name for the students at the Memphis School of Preaching is MSOP. As soon as it unfreezes. What'd you do? It was the internet that froze. MSOPstudents.org. It's a beautiful website. Can't you tell? Oh wait, it's not finished yet. That's what we're going to build. You have to have a domain name. You have a server, runs out there in DigitalOcean, and you have a domain name. Think of it like a house. You buy a house, you live in a house, you have the property, that's your server. You have your address, that's where everyone goes to get to your server. If your address doesn't lead to your property, what happens? Nobody gets there. So we've got to point the address at the property. We're going to use a service called Cloudflare to do that. If you don't already have a domain name for your congregation, come see me later. We'll discuss how to get that. That's very easy. It's well-known information, but most congregations have one, even if it's old, they haven't touched it in years, they have one. What we're going to do is use this service called Cloudflare, which is free for what we use it for, to connect that website address to the server so that your address points to your property. In this case, we're going to use the msopstudents.org. And if we were setting up a new site, let's actually walk through that process. If we were setting up a new site, we would do something like, it's not it. Yes, I know it already exists. Oh, it's already had. Somebody give me a domain name. Just one that actually exists. I don't care. We're not actually going to do anything to it. I just want to show you the process. Say what? All right. Mid-Mo Bible Camp.com. Okay. So if I click Add Site, if I owned that domain, I type it in there, and I say, oh, I want free. And then what Cloudflare does is it goes out and it talks to the internet, to the domain name provider, and says, where are all of the servers for this website located? And it will point you to a bunch of IP addresses, like here and here, and then some other information like that. What Cloudflare can do is get permission from your domain name provider to take over the map to your property. In other words, if you pull up Google Maps and you say, how do I get from here to here? That's what a domain name does. Someone types in the internet, google.com or midmobiblecamp.com, and the domain name service is Google Maps. It says, you need to go from here to here, and the end result is you're going to go to this IP address. The reality is, all the servers on the internet are just IP addresses. They have numbers and letters, and you don't want to have to remember that. So you get to type in Midmo Bible Camp. Having set these to the proper servers, so if we were using DigitalOcean, this was the server we set up, right? MSOP 2019. We'd copy that address, and we drop it in, oops, wrong button. Right there. Paste it in there, and then we'd also type in www and paste it in there. And you say, Aaron, didn't you just mess up his website? No, because the domain name registrar hasn't given me permission to make these changes yet. I'm just preparing the changes. The very next step would be, if I hit continue, it'd say, okay, you need to put in this information in the domain name registrar. Y'all are starting to get a little glazed. Okay. If you were following through this with me, and if you had your domain and your server in front of you, you'd walk through these steps. What I want you to understand is you have a server, you have a domain name, you have a map system, a domain name service that gets you to the server. All of that's critical, especially for people who are going to watch this 3 years from now, sitting at home going, oh, I can back that up. Yep, got it. Okay. What's the next step? The next step is a service called Server Pilot. Here's what you don't want. You don't want to administrate a Linux web server. I know that because I've done it before. You don't want to do it. There are a few people, like Paul Davenport, who love it, and they're great. But I don't love it, and I don't want to spend my time doing it. So I use a service that takes care of security updates, firewalls, and other things like that, and also installs my website so that I don't have to do that either. And it is service called Server Pilot. This is the one piece that I would say of all of the things that I have learned in this process, this is one of the most valuable ones, because you can connect the two services, Server Pilot and DigitalOcean, and using that Cloudflare address, using that domain name, you can cause these two services to work together to keep your website up to date, to keep your server up to date, to keep it secure, and to be able to quickly build a website. The website you see in front of you right here, MSOP students, -G, whatever the other numbers that it put in front of you, I built last night. I then installed WordPress on it last night. That took about 3 minutes. I then took WordPress and created a website for every student in the school. That took longer because I had to type all of your names. But that was the longest part of it, copying and pasting your names in there. So you now all have a website. But if I had done that back the way I used to do it when I first got started, and the way most people do it, that would have taken me a few days. It may seem a little tedious right now, but what you're getting is a glimpse into how can you do this efficiently. And again, all this is being recorded. You can come back, go to it again. We have a server. It's connected. It's on DigitalOcean. It's connected through Cloudflare. And the domain is pointing to that server, to the IP addresses of that server. And now what we're going to do is connect Server Pilot to that server. Somewhere over here in the internet is Gmail. And I got an email that says you have a new droplet, new server, MSOP 2019, and here is the root username and here is the password. By the way, if you ever want to get hacked, live stream your root username and your root password and broadcast them to the entire world. And you'll get hacked. Guarantee it. So that's what we're going to do. The server's not going to be up tomorrow, so I don't care. So, all right.
Say that again, please.
Yes.
Username, root password, what else?
When the server was created, we chose to have a one-time password sent to us. That password is for the root administrator. In the Linux world, that means the single user that can change everything everywhere on the computer. In other systems, we call them the super admin. If you have access to a root account of a server, oh, I know what it is. I didn't paste in the right IP address. You can change anything. You can steal any information or you can take any information. You have complete control. So, Server Pilot will cost you an additional $5.50. Remember the question at the end of right before lunch? How much would it cost to run a website? And I said $11.50. It's because these two services are the only services you have to pay for. $6 at one and $5.50 at the other. So, we hit connect to server, put in the IP address, and we put in that root password. We don't need to save the password. Server Pilot is not going to keep that password. They're not going to use the root account for anything because that would be insecure, other than connecting to it one time, using it once, setting up their account, and then getting rid of that. So this is going to sit there. It's going to run. We're not going to sit here and watch it because we already have this site set up. Okay? So when it's done, I'll show you how to install WordPress. This is a WordPress website. This website is flexible. Why would we use WordPress? WordPress is a website content management system. You'll see it referenced as a CMS. The reason why I use WordPress is this. 34% of every website on the internet uses WordPress. And that number increases every year because it is so good at what it does. Are there other tools out there? Yes. Some of them are free, some of them are not. WordPress is open source and it is free. And 34% of the internet runs on top of it, which means it has a very large community of people who are building tools for it. Some are free, some are not. But here's the really important piece. You say, I wonder if I could build XYZ for my church. What is that? Is that a repository of videos? Is that a login system where you can keep track of a directory? Whatever it is, somebody's already built it for WordPress. All you have to do is do a Google search to find out who already built it and figure out what to do to implement it on your website. That's why I use WordPress, is because it is so powerful and it has such a large community of people supporting it, keeping it up to date, keeping it secure, and building tools for it. Here's the part where you can actually follow along. Aren't you glad? Because you almost fell asleep. All right. To log into WordPress, you go to the domain and you type in /wp-admin. So all of you who are students have in front of you a domain name with your name on it, except for J. And you're going to type your name, and you're going to type your password, your username and your password in a page that looks like this. It will log you into the website. Yes, sorry. So let me walk through that one more time. If it was, let me find, we're going to use Garrett as an example. So Garrett would go to GarrettYoung. Garrett Young. I have 3 T's, don't I? GarrettYoung.msopstudents.org. And use a /. That is a / right? I always get them confused, call them the wrong name. Is yours showing up? I have a, what's the helper in Jeopardy's name? Yeah, Vanna White. Eric is my Vanna White today. So, GarrettYoung.msopstudents.org /WP-admin. That's how you get to the dashboard. Each of you has on this paper a username and a password for your login.
Which one's the username?
I'm sorry, you don't have a username. It's your whole name, all lowercase, all one word. Your username is actually the same as the URL part of the first part of the URL. So that's the front. What you need to do is you just need to type WP-admin at the end of that. WP- or hyphen admin. And then hit enter.
We got this address
/. Your username is your name, all lowercase, all one word. So no spaces, no uppercases. I should have put this up on the screen. So it would look like, if it were mine, it would look like this, but with your name instead of mine. First and last, your username is your first and last name. Looks just like this part. I won't say out loud what the password scheme is, since we don't really want that broadcast to the entire world. Jay, do you use JAY? All right. Raise your hand if you are not yet logged in. I'll come to you in just a moment. Jay, yours should work now. Oh wait, what? One more thing I gotta do. Now it should work. We're going to go somewhat full screen like this for the people on the screen. All right. Yes, but don't type it into the search engine. You want to actually type it into the address bar. So that and WP-admin. Yep. So type your full name in all lowercase without any spaces, just like it is, just like it is right there, and then type that. Yes. Who else? Okay, I might have pasted the wrong one. All right, try typing that one more time. There you go. I just pasted the password wrong. Yes. Okay. Hold on. All right, try typing it one more time. I know the problem. I know. I forgot one thing. That's why I tried to have the list of names of students beforehand. Just because I knew I missed something. Okay. Try one more time. It didn't. It didn't take. There you go. So now you need the WP-admin at the top. Slash. WP-admin. Yep. Yeah, so I didn't get those set up yet, but give me just a minute. All right, so what I want to emphasize is this. Raise your hand if you have ever set up a WordPress website before. Okay, so it's 4 in the room. In all the talking that I did, in spite of the distraction and everything else, using the MSOP 2019 one, we set up a website in like 20 minutes. This is doable. And like I said, we'll work you through this process, but my first time I ever set up WordPress was like 7 hours. We can do this. We are going to take a quick break because for those visiting with us who do have laptops, I do want to get them a website up so they can go through the rest of the lessons with us. So we're going to break until 2. Give me a few minutes to get them up and going. Raise your hand if anybody didn't get logged in. Jay still needs to be logged in, and then we need a couple of sites back here. Okay,